Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. I'm your host, JP John Paz. With me today, very special guest, the ISPW Women's Champion, former TCW Goddess Champion. She is Vicious Vicky. Welcome to the two-man power trip. How you doing today?
Thank you. I'm great. How are you?
Doing very good. What's going on in your world? What are you up to?
Oh boy. Well, wrestling, and more wrestling. Actually, recently just kind of suffered a little injury, so kind of dealing
Oh,
with that right now. Shouldn't be out too long, minor thing, but yeah, kind of rocks your world when you're on like you got a lot of momentum and everything. I had a lot of momentum going. But it's wrestling, right? It's inevitable. This is gonna happen.
yep.
Unfortunately, it's the risk we take in this business. But yeah, man, a lot of wrestling.
What's the injury? What happened?
My knee, I'm going for more testing just to make sure. I went to a doctor about like 2 weeks ago, and he said, I was clear to wrestle, which to me was a little because like it hurts.
Yeah.
um, he said you have good mobility, but I don't really. Like I have trouble like when I get up and when I make certain moves. And I was wrestling like 2 weekends ago, and like I just couldn't move like I wanted to, and I know my body, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go get a second opinion. So I'm getting some testing done soon. But from what I've been told, it shouldn't be too long. So
Do you know how it happened?
I don't. I know that I've always had bad knees my whole life because I played softball and I was a absolutely psychotic center fielder where I used to just dive all over the place and I
Yep.
would always land on my knees all the time. Um, and doing wrestling kind of aggravates it a little bit, you would say. And I don't know, like one day I just like woke up and I was like, ow, like this hurts. This isn't normal, and it kind of affected me in the ring a little. I couldn't, like I said, I couldn't really like, move around that well. And I think it was just could have been anything. I wear knee pads. I didn't for a while. I was pretty stupid. Um, but yeah, I'm not sure. And I think that's crazy because sometimes like in wrestling, like the craziest injuries happen from like the like dumbest things.
Yeah.
Like dumbest things.
You never know in wrestling what could happen. Like
It's true.
walking
You
in the
really don't.
ring and walking into the ring, you never know you can get injured.
Exactly. It's the risk we take. We wrestlers. We're crazy people. Not normal. I always say normal people don't do what we do.
Yeah. It's a crazy world, but I
Yeah.
gotta mention ISPW 325 coming up very, very soon. Totowa, New Jersey, over at the PAL. ISPWWrestling.com for ticks. What's going on? You versus Gabby, I guess, is the scheduled match. Hopefully, it can all go down without a hitch.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm gonna show up. I'm not gonna give too much away for sure, but I'm a fighting champion, man. So I got a match against a bestie, so to speak. So kind of do my best, and that's what champions do. You got to show up, man, and that's what I'm gonna do. So we'll see. I know Gabby's tough, but I'm the champ, so
Yeah. ISPW, I like just what they're doing. They got a great
yeah.
vibe going on, right? I mean, are you loving this promotion? Because it seems like okay, it's an indie promotion, but it seems much different. Just the way. I mean, you guys were showing up to virtual signings, and you guys,
Yeah.
you're taking over. Just different stuff going on at ISPW for sure.
Yeah, so ISPW for me, like, oh man, I mean, Tommy Fierro was just the man. Very, very good to me. There's a lot of things I wouldn't know what I would do without him for sure. Very close. ISPW is like nothing I've ever experienced, and I've been so many places and done so many things, and I even tell him I posted about it. I'm like, there is nothing that I've ever experienced like ISPW, and I think it's because the fans. He had this clientele and this fan base from years ago, and they're still there, and having the 80s wrestling and the 80s wrestling con and all these virtual signings and so much of that following, those fans are so loyal. And I think that when they come to the shows and tell their friends and their family and they're bringing all these people, the environment is just so electric. That's the word I use for his shows is like electric. Like they're on 24/7 every single show. That crowd is like they're in it for the right reasons. Like if it's a good guy, they're there. If it's a bad guy, they're there. Like they're just so invested into the product. And we in wrestling today, we don't have that really anymore. And it's kind of like it sucks, like, as like wrestlers, and being able to tell stories and have people actually follow it and care, like having the hero and them getting behind the hero. You know what I mean? It's like
Yep.
wrestling's like there's so many things that just have changed over the years, and I love that ISPW like is so true to that old school way of wrestling, because that was the best, and
Yep.
I am so happy to be a part of that for sure.
Yeah, the last show I said, "Hey, Tommy, how'd it do?" I wasn't able to make it. "Hey, how did it do?" She sent me a picture. I was like, "Oh my god!" Like,
Yeah,
great house too. I think
yeah,
it was in Butler. It was like, wow, really, really impressive.
always. He hasn't had a show yet, and he won't. He won't. But he's never had a show that was light. It was just packed every time, so it's really cool.
When you say, it's different back then, were you always a big wrestling fan? Were you always loving the business?
Yeah, so I'm 28 now. When I was, oh my God, like 3 or 4. So I grew up like Attitude Era, pretty much. Like that,
Yep.
like right before like Attitude Era came out is when I started watching, very, very young. And my sisters were really big into it. So that's what kind of like prompted me to like watch it and everything. And um I just fell in love with it. And I remember like one of the first things I saw was like Undertaker and Kane, like something between the two of them. And it like freaked me out a little bit because I was
Hmm.
young and I was like, what are these monsters? But as I was watching, it was like Stone Cold and like I think it was the beer truck incident. Like it was like all these like cool things were happening. I'm like, what am I watching? And hooked me. And since I was very young, and I always say, like, when people are like, like, what got you into wrestling or how long you want to be a wrestler and all those questions, like I love that, because for me, like, even though it might sound like a cliche, like I've met so many people in the business who didn't like wrestling their whole life and who didn't want to be a wrestler their whole life. And it's
Hmm.
crazy because like I was that little girl in preschool who I love telling this story, who got in trouble for like saying something cursing about like Stone Cold. Like I got in trouble
Right.
at like
That's
preschool,
great.
like
Yeah.
mimicking what I saw on TV, like bringing it to school,
Yep.
wearing like the beer. Like he had like the one shirt back in the day, because I loved Stone Cold at first. He was like my favorite. Had like the 2 beers and it had like the middle fingers on
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
and I got in trouble for that. But always wanted to be a wrestler since I was young, and here I am. And it was a long journey to get here, but I'm here, so it's pretty cool.
Now, what kind of changed, in wrestling? Really, to think about it, it's like, okay, those days were great. Steve Austin's great, who might be coming back now. Who knows if he's really wrestling or not? But what do you think changed? Like, what was the thing that made it so much different? Then it was great. Now I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. um, I think back then it was just like one of those things where it's like everybody really was their own person. Like, and this isn't a mock on anything, because I follow suit, because that's unfortunately what it is. And I try to be different. Like I've always tried to rack my brain how to be different, because I feel like that's what made wrestling work back in the day, was that everybody legitimately was a character. Everybody had their own story. Everybody had their own
Yep.
look, their own moves. Like, and again, it's wrestling. Moves are gonna get recycled. That's just how it works. But it was just so different. And it's like when Kane came out, he had a story and he looked different. Lita's my all-time favorite. I mean, her name's tattooed on my neck. Like I just loved her so
Oh,
much. I still
nice.
do. And the Hardys, you can only imagine how I felt last night with that whole reunion. Like, you know
It
what I
came
mean? Like
back.
I
Yeah.
was going nuts.
Yeah.
But everybody was different. And I think today, especially for the women, and again, not a mock, I'm very, supportive of everybody, including myself. I just think everybody looks the same. Everybody looks like a wrestler, like the knee pads, the arm, the elbow pads, like it's like, and it's cool. And that's the new age, of what we're doing here. But I miss, and I really hope that I can, when I make my comeback, like strong, I want to come, like, like finish out some matches and, take some time, but like, something different. There has to be something different. There's a couple people like in the business today that I'm like, oh, okay, I'm like, that's different, that's cool, like, and I think that's what made wrestling work back then,
Yep.
was the legitimate characters. And that's what it was all about. So I think that's what's lacking today, is that everybody's just a wrestler. You know what I mean?
Each guy had their own character, like Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like you was like larger than life, but you can like relate to him. He's an
Yep.
ass kicker. Like he is who he is. And it's like The Rock. Okay, he's a
Hmm.
character. He's a wise ass sometimes, but he can back it up. But like he's Undertaker, Kane, Mankind. Like those guys
Yep.
are characters that could stand on their own, larger than life for
Yep.
sure.
100%. And again, that's what drew us all in, like even in the 80s too, of course, like the
Yep.
80s, same thing. It's like it was just, that's what drew us in. That's what sucked me in, was like everybody was different. There was all these different things happening, and it just was great content. And now it's hard. And I think even WWE, like respectfully so, I still love WWE. I still love all wrestling, but they're struggling, man. It's just it's hard to repeat history. And I think that that's what the wrestling world, or at least a couple companies, are trying to do, is repeat history. It's done. History was made. It was awesome. We can look back on it, but these guys and these girls can't go like these ages. That's why the new age, including myself, like we got to bring it, man, because it's something that's important. It's something that we watched growing up, and it's like, why would we want to let that die? Like that kind of entertainment die?
Yep. It's funny too because you're saying you're wearing the Austin shirts. Back then, it was so mainstream. It was so like pop culture. Not
Yep.
only you're a little girl wearing the shirts. I mean, I had shirts. Well, my friends had shirts. We were in school.
Yep.
People are kind of like relating to wrestling, or it's quote unquote cool. It's a part of the culture. Everybody's into it. But now you hardly see shirts. I mean, once in a while, I see like a Roman Reigns shirt or something. But
Yeah.
it's very few and far between. It's I don't know. It's different now. I don't know what happened, but it was so much more ingrained in us, and it was
Yep.
quote unquote cool or hip or whatever you want to say. We're all
Oh,
wearing
for
the
sure.
shirts.
For sure. It was like the household. It was like the household thing, back in the
Mm.
day. It really was. Like it was like everybody I knew watched wrestling. Everybody. Not even like, oh, I don't watch, like every kid, every adult, like back then, like watched wrestling. And then it just started to fizzle out. And I think it's that's why I respect people who are so creative with wrestling nowadays, because it's like it's not as big as it was. So it's like when somebody like goes outside of the box to be like a character or something, like I love that, because that's what it needs, is to like bring that back, but with new age people, and it can be done, but it either might not be done, or it's going to take a while. So I'm not sure which one it is, but I'm hoping to kind of be a part of that breaking the mold again group.
Yep. If you think about it, you're young. You fell in love with wrestling. You wanted to get in wrestling because you were a fan. Like, where's wrestling going to be in 10, 20 years if people aren't kids, aren't fans, aren't
Yep.
wearing the shirts, aren't gravitated? Where hopefully that wrestling doesn't become more niche or less of the
Yeah.
fans, because I know when I was a kid, it kept going, and I know
Yep.
obviously my dad watched wrestling, but it kind of keeps going. I hope it doesn't stop,
I
because
know.
that could mean the end of wrestling. It just
Yep.
seems like trending in a bad direction. We got to bring it back.
Exactly. And I think that relies on, the talent too, and not just the promoters. And I mean like more major companies, of course, like
Mhm.
not just the promoters and the producers and screenwriters and all that. I think it's more the talent too, especially, like in AEW, they have total creative freedom, and that's why I do like that product. I won't lie. I do enjoy watching AEW. I think it's really cool to see all the old timers on there who are still killing it. I mean, like they're still, these guys and girls are still going, which is awesome. And then like I like the fact that they give a platform for independent stars. I think that's absolutely huge. And I see some of these people and what they do. Like I don't mind AEW because I think there's a lot more creative freedom. So you're not forced to just be what someone else wants you to be, and it's hard to do. Like you could pitch ideas, and I have people all the time and do that too. That's what wrestling's about. You kind of, if you have someone who's like a little bit more experienced than you or in the business longer, kind of pitch something your way, take it. You have to take it, of course, and you can kind of pick at it and be like, hey, you know what? Maybe I could switch this around or do this, or that's what makes it unique, is that everybody can have a say in something. But I think that was a big thing that I liked about AEW, is like creativity. And I think that like that's huge. Like being able to kind of, especially if the what the person's pitching is like something that's like really cool or like going to be like different. I think it's important to have somewhat as an independent talent, so to speak. And even if me or someone else got signed one day to a major company, I think it's important to kind of have a little say in what you think, because you never know.
Yeah, definitely. Is AEW a possible landing spot, or a place you think about? Oh, I want to work there one day. Is that possible for you, or is
Yeah,
that something you
I
think
would
about?
love to. I'm hoping that, once I'm 100% again, like fully, I would love to like, get a shot on Dark or something. I
Mm,
know the sky's the limit. I'm very optimistic. I'm a very optimistic person, regardless, like just as a normal person. So I'm very like, all right, like, it's not my time yet. Like, just keep working hard, keep running, keep doing shows, and eventually something will hit. And I think that, I like that product a lot, and I would love to be a part of that. Don't get me wrong. Like, I would love to go to WWE too. I would love to do anything that would allow me for that to be my job. Like
mhm.
that's my goal, really, is for that to be my job.
Seems like, of course, and everyone probably knows it, but AEW is more bullet points, not
Yep.
as scripted.
Yep.
WB is scripted to the bone. You got to memorize stuff. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
There's definitely two different worlds as far as pro wrestling and sports entertainment and scripted entertainment.
100%. Yeah, for sure. So,
What is like something that's more comfortable for you? I think you probably would lean more towards AEW, like just in general, that type of like bullet points. Because I've seen you cut promos and it's very fluid. Like there's no like, oh, she must be reading off a cue card. You know, like that kind of thing. You like you seem like you'd be more of like, give me bullet points of what you want me to do,
yep.
and I can knock it out of the park.
Yep. It's so funny because I just did a promo for a promotion I was at last weekend, and I said, just give me. This is what I say to anybody who wants me to cut a promo. I'm like, just give me the gist, and I got the rest. Like, I just need exactly bullet points. I just need the gist of what's going on, or where I'm going with this, and I'm very lights, camera, action, go. And even if I stumble over my words, which I have done on camera, I just reel it right back. I'm just like, like I'm stumbling over my words, but that doesn't matter. Like, like you just gotta roll, and
Yeah.
but it makes it more real. And I think that the way I was trained very well, and I think that it's all about believing and being believable. So I think like even like selling and punching and all these things that we do, promos too. Even if you stumble, like you have to, it makes it more realistic. It makes it more like a shoot promo. You know what I mean? Like, and
Yep.
even if it's not, or you know what? It's just I love that, and I think that that's very important in wrestling because it's also your storytelling, but like to be able to do that and still get your character over, whether it's good or bad. That's what it's about. So I would definitely go more with give me the gist, put the camera on, let's go.
Right. So who did train you? Like, where did you get your background from, and like, how did you kind of break in?
Yeah, so I was trained by Pat Buck, Danny Moff, Mario Baccara, Kevin Matthews. Yeah, they were my head honchos. I did like youth clinics and stuff when I was like really young, like I was a kid, like 16 or 12 through 16. Stopped doing it for a while, got caught up in some life drama that I'm very open about. I had a pretty bad opiate addiction when I was very young, and 7 years clear of that, thank God. But kind of stopped me from living my dreams. And I remember just getting sober and being like, hey, like I'm gonna regret this. This is what I want to do. I got to do this. And I went to Creative Pro New Jersey in Rahway. That was this October 2018. I went to training for the first time. And within like 3 months, they put me on a show like for as a manager role. Dove right into the business like right away. Like they threw me, and they're like reputable. They're great guys. They really know their stuff, and they felt comfortable just throwing me out there as a manager right away. And that's humbling. That's really cool. That I was kind of thrown to the wolves, but they trusted me, and it helped me. Like being on shows so early, and even being a manager, like it's like a like an arm candy for a guy for a year or two. It really made me learn the business quicker and get more comfortable with being out there. So I totally will never say not a bad word about my training because they really did help me and mold me to who I am today for sure.
Yeah, those guys at Wrestle Pro and Creative Pro are great. Pat is obviously he's with WWE right now. He's a road
Yes.
agent
Yep.
for producer, I guess you would call him for WWE. So he's moving on up for
Yeah.
sure.
No, he is. He's been for quite a while now.
When you look at that, I like that because it's like they're not just training you and you're training forever. It's like we got to put you out there in front of the people
Yeah.
to see, like how you react because it's not all going to be, in front of nobody. You're going to be in front of fans. So I like them throwing you out there and seeing what you got.
Yep. Yep. And like I said, it was humbling because they didn't do that for everybody. That if they trusted, whoever they were training at the time, guys and girls, they had like rumbles and stuff like that. The one thing about them is they really showcase their students. And I think that's awesome because they have like, they just had like a student showcase. Like they've been doing that for years. And I think that's really cool because it allows, like you said, it allows you to kind of get out there and see what it's like. And you're only going to learn that way. So I love that they do that. That's awesome.
It's way better to learn, I think, rather than just keep going through the class. Like
Right.
in the people, you might have a sink or swim moment where you might not do well, but it's one of the things where like I got to get out there eventually. Might as well be now. I'm ready.
Exactly. Yep.
When you are like going through the process, and are you thinking like big thing, or are you thinking, okay, I just want to make sure I have my first match? Like, are you thinking little by little, or are you thinking big picture when you first got in?
I honestly was one step at a time when I first started. I was so happy just to be there. Like I
Mm,
remember when I first started training, like I remember just because of like my past and everything and how far I came, like I was like, I made it. Like to me in that moment, like training, I made it. Like I was just content being in a ring, training, learning how to do it. Like I was so happy. And I picked it up really quick. And I was just so like beside myself. I remember how happy I was every single time I walked through those doors to train. Um, and then once I started going on shows is when I started thinking like big picture more. But I still, and even now, like all these years later, all the belts and all the things I've done, which are really cool, I'm still very like, all right, step by step. Like it's not my time yet. I'll get there. It's not just keep working, you know. And I think that that's what keeps me like grounded in the business too. And I don't like blow my gasket is because I'm very like patient because I know that some people get it like and meaning like some people like they always say it's like who you know and all that and like it is. I mean a little bit unless you're like I don't even know like this is some wrestlers who are just like wow like they need to be on TV, you know.
mm,
So I'm
yep.
just very like patient and I'm just always grateful that I'm even doing it, you know. Like yeah, I still think big picture absolutely like I said like I want it to be my job, but I love it so much that like I'm okay with where I'm at if this is where I'm going to be at for a little bit longer until something breaks for me. You know what I mean?
When did you feel like, or maybe you haven't yet, but when did you feel like I got it? I got my character, I got myself. When do you like? Did that take a while to kind of find yourself?
Yeah, I feel like I still am. I mean I'm more like in touch with my character now because I don't change, meaning like my in-ring style very little bit did. My attitude, whether I'm a baby or a heel, I'm still like vicious Vicky. Like I still got to do like certain things. Um, and it was confusing for a while. Like pull the curtain back a little bit. Like it was like a baby, super over baby in one place, and then like ferocious heel in another. And it was confusing me for a while. Because like I can do both, and I'm very proud of myself that I can because I think that that was really huge, and I know that that's not easy for everybody to do, and I'm very grateful that I was able to pull that off. But it gets confusing because it's like, wait a minute, who am I? And that's where I got stuck for a minute. I'm like, wait a minute, this is like throwing me off, you know? Because it's like I'm Vicious Vicky on social media and all these places where people follow me, but like one company, I'm this, and another company, it was just a little chaotic. So that's why I started kind of just being Vicious Vicky, and Vicious Vicky does what she wants. Vicious Vicky doesn't care about anything but winning, and you know, sometimes but she'll be nice to the fans and all that, and then other times maybe she's not, she's in a bad mood and she's just gonna be like, leave me the hell alone. Like, you know, like so I'm just trying to
Right. Yeah.
find that like happy medium with it, you know. So it's just me really. I'm not a mean person, but Vicious Vicky could be mean sometimes.
Right. You'd be feisty, of course. Yes.
hmm
How would you explain like Vicious Vicky and your wrestling style? Like, say somebody never saw you and like, oh, you're going to see her tonight. How would you explain it?
My wrestling style,
Yeah, like your style in the ring.
I'm very ground and pound, very simple. Like I'm very like aggressive and I'm very like hard hitting. So once in a while I hit like flashy stuff for me, which is flashy for me because like I said, I'm more like a brawler. Like I'm just like punches, kicks, choke, like you know, holds and just different like things like that. But I'm more about like facials and storytelling and
Mhm.
like taking those little moments. Like that's those are the things that I was drilled into my head that is more important. And you know, I think that's more captivating to an audience than just doing like a moonsault every 5 seconds. And like, you know, and don't get me wrong, I love it. I love it. There was Lita, you know, she did all the crazy stuff. But, you know, I like engaging the fans more and engaging the situation more and feeling like, you know, what would my character do? Vicious Vicky is going to beat the living crap out of you until she wins. That's basically it. You know, like, oh, yeah, I'll pull out some like fancy move, maybe like a Rana or something, or, you know, once in a while. But you know, I like to stay true to what my character's been for the last like 4 years, and that's just a brawler. Like I'm gonna beat your ass until I win, you know, and it worked. It worked for me, and I think that's what is most important about that is that it's working. So that's why I don't touch it because if it works, then I'm not gonna mess with it, you know.
What would you say, Vicious Vicky? Like, how would you describe her? Like, like we're saying, like, let's say, Jesse the Body Ventura. You kind of like he's Jesse the Body. He's a loudmouth, but he's got a great body, but he's a shit talker. Like,
Yep.
what would you say, Vicious Vicky? Like, how would you describe the character?
Yep. Vicious Vicky is an Italian loudmouth. She is very, very. She has this thing about her where she's very cocky, where she doesn't want you to know that she's cocky, but she is, kind of thing. Almost like nothing phases her. You know, like she's cocky, but like I don't even need you to know that like I'm better than you because you should already know it, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Guidette, she's a Guidette, cool chick, but she'll kick your ass. Like don't mess with her. Like she could be nice to you and she'll be like, all right, but then if you do something wrong, she's gonna kick your ass. Like and I think that that's important is that like my character is so based off of like who I am, but obviously once I go through the curtain, it's who I am like times a million. So I love that that's what I was trying to find was like being myself, but like not being myself.
Hmm.
And that's what I love about wrestling is that I was able to kind of find that like curve of like, all right, well, so who am I? I'm this Italian loudmouth, badass chick who will kick your ass if you step to me, who's going to do anything she can to be at the top to win. And if you don't like it, then you don't have to be friends with her because she doesn't care about you. She only cares about belts. The belt
With
collector. I'm the belt collector over here.
Yeah, I like that, and pretty cool. Like the bell collector shows up on Busted Open Radio, which is obviously pretty good. How did that all kind of come to
Oh,
be?
that was amazing. So, um, yeah, so I've met David LaGreca quite a few times through ISPW shows and everything, and he's just amazing, man. He's hysterical, hit it off, and Tommy and him have a great relationship too, and we just kind of orchestrated it, and I was so awesome to be on that, and got to hang out with them and talk to them and everything. It was really really cool, and he is something else. I'm like this is my guy. Like hello. He's all over the place, but it was awesome, and Mark Henry too was great. So yeah, like just having him in ISBW, like the connections were there, and it was cool. It worked out.
Pretty damn cool, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like you're stepping on up. That's a national radio show there. Pretty good.
absolutely. It was probably one of the coolest things. I was like, this is awesome. Like I am so grateful right now.
And you get to show, hey, this is Vicky. You get to really kind of show yourself and make a name for yourself outside of just even wrestling fans. I know, obviously,
Yeah,
wrestling fans listen to that, but Busted Open, it's on Sirius Radio. You get a little bit of a bigger audience, bigger grasp.
100%. Yeah, yeah. It was really cool. I was really really grateful for that because that was important too. And we were also um promoting ISPW as well. Like it was just a really really cool segment, man. It was really cool.
So with you, I know you were mentioning Lita, that tattoo being a big fan. Did you see her match against Becky Lynch, her return match against Becky?
I did, and I think she brought it, man. I do. I was very pleased with her performance. Like she made quite a few comebacks over the last several years, and she wasn't bad. Like they all still have it, but like she was on. Like I was like, there she is, and she was like better than she was years ago. I was like, holy! Like, she could tell that she was like working out and training, and she was really taking it seriously. And it showed, man. And I just love her. She just beats to her own drum. She comes out wearing what she wants. Like, and that's just to real quick bring it back to what I was saying earlier about everybody looking like a wrestler. That's why I loved her so much because she didn't. She came out in her
Hmm.
own clothes and
Yep.
she was just different. And I love that. I think that is what wrestling is missing. It's not just her, but just that idea of being different. But yeah, no, I loved the match. I thought it was great. I wasn't missing that for anything. I was not missing that match.
Pretty good match, and I don't know if a lot of people know this better. She had a debilitating back injury at one point several years ago. So for her even to be wrestling, and obviously, if you have a back injury, I mean that's probably the worst you can have as a wrestler. You know what I mean? That just so for her to be able to wrestle, obviously, I think she's mid 40s, something like that. Hadn't wrestled in years, did have a back injury. Pretty remarkable. Just even be able to do the moonsault, do a lot
I
of the stuff
know.
she was able to
I
do.
don't remember the back injury, which I should if but I know she had a neck injury,
Yes. Yep.
and then she tore and blew her ACL like twice.
Yep. The back injury was weird. It was almost like kept under
2005-ish.
wraps for a little bit. I don't know why, but yeah,
Yeah,
she had a
no,
bad
she
back
she
and
was always
just
getting
like you
hurt,
said,
always
broken neck. Dangerous
crazy.
style.
She's crazy.
But like you said, you were drawn to her because she's a character and she was different and she has charisma. You know what I mean? There was something larger than life about her.
Hell yeah. Yep, for sure. It was hard to not want to see her or watch her, you know?
Yep, for sure. So as we hit the wind down, we head towards the finish. What's next for Vicious Vicky? What's on the pipeline?
Yeah, so I mean, next up in wrestling is ISPW March 25th. That's going to be a big deal. I'm very excited again to be a part of those shows. But in my career, like I said, I think I'm going to check out this, do my last hurrah, maybe a little bit, but just rest up a little bit, get myself a little rehabbed with my knee and just see what's going on with that. And I plan on getting myself back to health 100% because I just, like I said, I don't feel 100. I feel maybe like 80, which isn't good in wrestling. I want to be 100, all the time. And I think that my goal is to come back strong. And I keep saying this, clean house, come back in the best shape of my life and just prove why I deserve that spot. Because at the end of the day, we're all competing for the same spot. All of us on the independents, and I am going to get my spot because I know that I should. And that's not a cocky thing. That is a optimistic, like, I know, and I have to do this. If I don't, I won't regret it and I won't be bitter about it. But I know and believe in myself enough that there's something there and I cannot let that go to waste. So that's why I'm just going to work hard and just keep grinding until I get an opportunity, and it's worth it. It's worth the grind, like I said, because I love wrestling so much. So it's worth it. But yeah, that's my plan. Come back, clean house.
Let's say 5 years from now, where do you see yourself? Like, where do you want to be? Where do you see yourself?
I'm hoping that I'm signed. I'll take honestly any major company. Any company that would have me, I would always remain professional and love my job and do it well and just be happy that I have a career in doing something that I've loved my entire life. So that's where I'm hoping to be in 5 years, settled, you know, superstardom, and it's not just about anything other than the love for the business and just dying. Because I know sometimes we all have our real jobs and it sucks when you have to go to a job that you don't like, and to have the opportunity to actually have a career that you love, I'm all for that. So that's my goal.
What about like a dream opponent? I know Lita maybe is out there, but dream opponent or somebody you want to wrestle on the indie scene? Is there somebody out there, or maybe a couple of girls out there that you're like, I really want to wrestle them?
Yeah, I Chris Statlander was she was a Creative Pro New York. She was training
Yeah.
before she was signed when I started, and I always wanted to wrestle her, and I literally never got a chance to. And I'd love to wrestle her. I think she's one of the really really good ones out there. I know she's signed now, but God, I love her work. I love everything about her. I think she's awesome. Um, yeah, and I always say like my dream match, if I had to pick someone who was like signed, Charlotte Flair, she's another one. I love her. Like I think she just screams superstar to me. She walks out and it's like instantly you're just like, wow. Like, she's bad. Like she's like just everything about her just to me is just superstar in every single way. And I'm sure it's the blood in her, but she's
Yes.
just something else, and she's very athletic and it just her facials. And I'm very big on like the facials and the reactions and everything like that. I love watching her work. That would honestly be like my biggest dream match is Charlotte Flair.
It's a good one, for sure. Of course, like I mentioned before, ISPWWrestling.com, Big Show 325, Totowa, New Jersey. Check that out. Check out the Wrestling Collector store in Stockholm, New Jersey, which
Yes.
is a great spot. I think you've been there before. Great spot that Tommy has as well. You've probably been there a few
Sure
times.
is. That's like a
And before we let
wrestling museum.
yeah, always got great stuff in there. And you never know because he could pick up some rare stuff from God knows where, and all of a sudden you got new stuff in the store. It's crazy.
It's
So before we let you go, give us the plugs and where everybody can find you and see what Vicious Vicky's up to.
I think I lost you for a second.
Can you hear me? Hear me now? Can you hear me now? You're back.
I lost you. I was like, what happened?
I was just saying,
I'm back.
where can everybody find you? Where the
Yeah,
plug
so
social media,
I
everything.
have Twitter, Instagram. It's the same handle. It's just at Vicious Vicky. There's like underscores in there, but if you type Vicious Vicky, it'll pop up. Facebook is my government, so I always say if you find me, you find me.
Hmm.
um, yeah, and I have a couple like pro wrestling tee stores and T Public. I have the Vicious Vicky store if you want to buy some merch.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much where you're gonna find me. So
All right. Great stuff. Of course, like we mentioned, ISPWWrestling.com. You versus Gabby Ortiz on 325 in total. Everybody should head over and check that out. A lot of other great stars in the show. But Vicious Vicky, thank you so much for all the time. Really appreciate it.
of course, thank you for having me. It was an honor. I appreciate it.